Hey guys, this is Mr. Grice for Algebra 2, Unit 2 Final Exam Review. Remember, no calculator. You must show all work and to write your answers on the lines provided. Okay, so let's take a look at 2x to the fourth. Now, we talked about some of these words before, but let's see how much you guys remember. Coefficient. A coefficient is the number that is in front of a variable. So our coefficient in this case is 2. Now our next word is base. The base is the number that's in front of the exponent. Okay, so our base here is just the x. Our exponent, hopefully all of you guys know the exponent. The exponent is the little number. Okay, it tells us how many of the base we have. Finally, the power is the whole part with the exponent. Okay, that exponent doesn't go to the 2, it's only connected to the x, so our power is x to the fourth. Okay, so that's a mini review of that part. Now let's start talking about all of the rules we talked about in chapter 2. Okay, now same bases are multiplied is when we add the exponent. So our example, x3 times x2, well, it's the same base. Okay, it's the same variable. So then we just count them up, okay? And we get x to the fifth. Our next one, if it's the same basis and it's division, that means we subtract. Okay, so we're looking at right over here, x12 over x to the 13th. Ask yourself, who wins, the top or the bottom? Well, the bottom wins. By how much? It wins by 1. Now, if there's just 1, we don't really write that 1 there. But what do we put on top? Well, everything canceled out on the top, so we're left with a 1. Okay? If exponents are outside of the parentheses, that means we have to distribute, and we don't distribute to one thing, we distribute to everything. Okay, so that -4, we're going to distribute the 2 to it. And also that x, we have to distribute that too, and we multiply that. So 3 times 2 is 6. And we always need to look to simplify. So -4 times -4 is a positive 16, and then x to the 6th stays. Our next example, parentheses 3x over y to the 4th, parentheses to the 2nd power. Whenever you have anything inside the exponents, always, or the parentheses, always look to see if you can reduce that. In this case, we can't. So we need to imagine that every variable, everything in there has an exponent of 1, and we have to distribute to everything. Okay? So 3 will now be to the 2nd power. That x is to the 2nd power, and the 4, the y, is now to the 8th power because we're multiplying everything. And we always want to reduce, okay? Now the x squared and the y to the 8th, those stay the same. We can't do anything, but we know what 3 squared is. That's 9. And that's it. Okay. The exponent of 0. We learned that if your exponent is 0, no matter what your base is, and in this case our base is all of this, if your exponent's 0, your base turns into 1. Okay? And then if your exponent is negative, we drop it like it's hot. So your exponent's negative, drop it like it's hot. If it's already on the bottom, bring it to the top. And remember, it doesn't apply to negative numbers, so that -3 stays there, okay? X cubed goes to the bottom, and then y to the 4th goes on top. And we always, always, always check to see if we can reduce, okay? 3 over 15 reduces to -1 over 5 because 3 goes into both of those. And then y to the 4th, x cubed. All right, there's the top half. Now let's see if we can follow some of these rules. Okay, simplify using the rules of exponents. Answers must have positive exponents. Okay, do you hear that, guys? Only positive exponents. Our first rule, we're multiplying, we have the same base, so we just add the numbers. We have m to the 18th. Okay, number 2, we have the number outside, so we distribute, we multiply that. So 3 times 12, if you need your multiplication charts, guys, take it out. You get y to the 36th power. Okay? For number 3, we always check to see if we can reduce. And since we can't, we're going to distribute that 3 to everything. So it's really saying -2 to the 3rd over 3 to the 3rd. And when we work that out, -2 to the 3rd is 8, and 3 to the 3rd is 27. So -8 over 27. Remember that if your exponent's negative, you drop it like it's hot. Okay? So since both of those are on the bottom, 5 cubed and squared, if everything goes to the bottom, that means there's a 1 that stays up on the top. Okay? And we always want to reduce or simplify. 5 cubed, 5 times 5 is 25, and 25 times 5 is 125. N squared. Okay, number 5. We check to see if we can reduce, and we can't. So now we're going to distribute that -2 to everything. Okay, so we have 3, -2, m, -8, and n to the -2. So if our exponents are negative, we drop them like it's hot. If they're already on the bottom, we bring them to the top. Okay? So we're left with n squared up top, and then we have 3 squared m to the 8th. And when we simplify that, 3 squared is 9 m to the 8th. Okay, number 6. The m's are the same, so we just combine those, add them up, we get m to the 5th. And when we have our numbers out here, we just follow what it tells us to do. It says, hey, multiply. -4 times 5 is -20. We don't drop the -20 down because the exponent up here, it's 1. It's a positive 1, okay? It's just a negative number. We can still have that. Number 7 is testing if you know the exponents outside of parentheses rule, okay? Because this exponent, the 2, goes to everything inside the 3 and the 12, because the 12 has an exponent of 1. So when we distribute that, the 12 now has an exponent of 2 and x to the 6th. So when we simplify this, 12 squared is 144, and then we're left with x to the 6th power. Now, number 6, or number 8, we got a lot of things going on here. Let's take a look first at our numbers 8 and 6. Can we reduce those numbers? Yeah, you can reduce them both by 2, and we're left with 4 on the top and 3 on the bottom. Okay, so now I'm only looking at my x's. Who wins with the x's, the top or the bottom? The top wins, and the top wins by 2. Okay, what about the y's? Who wins with the y's, the top or the bottom? Okay, the bottom, and the bottom wins by 7. So we're left with 4x squared over 3y to the 7th. Okay, number 9. If your exponent's negative, you drop it like it's hot. If it's already on the bottom, bring it to the top. Okay, so we have 5m to the 4th, and then a squared came on top. And on the bottom, we have 25. Let's see, we have 25b, and then n cubed came down. Okay, now we're going to have a little bit of rearranging to do because we want those in alphabetical order. 5 and 25, those reduce. Okay, so divide it by 5. We have a 1 and a 5. I'm bringing the a squared up, and then m to the 4th because we always write in alphabetical order. And if they're not written in alphabetical order, it's okay, just know the difference. Okay, know that they mean the same thing. All right, number 10. If your exponent 0, your base turns into 1. Once again, my exponent 0, my base turns into 1. However, negative 2 is not my base, so my negative 2 stays there, and there we go. So order of operations, we're doing 2 times 1, which is 2, and then 1 minus 2 is negative 1. Okay, you have to be very, very careful. Okay, scientific notation. Remember that it's saying a times 10 to a number, where a has to be greater than 0 and less than 1, okay? And n is any integer, positive or negative number. So what we're doing is when we're looking this, when it says to write in decimal form, it's at a positive or a negative. It's a positive, so if it's a positive number, I'm going to move it to the right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 times. Okay, so we're moving it from the decimal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then we're just going to put some commas in there so we know that it's talking about 2,378,000. All right, for number 12, it says to write into scientific notation. Okay, so if I'm writing this number into scientific notation, I'm going to find where my decimal is, and I need to bring it over 1 spot. Okay, so if I move it to the right 1.2345, if I moved it to the right, they have to move it to the left. So that's why it's going to be a negative 1. Okay? And then finally, the last one says to multiply and to write the answer into scientific notation. So what we need to do is with our exponents, we are going to add those, and then we're going to multiply our numbers. Okay? So let's start by multiplying 2.4 times 3. 4 times 3 is 12. and 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7. There was one number behind the decimal, so I'm going to make sure that there's one number behind the decimal. Okay, and then negative 8 plus 2 is negative 6. Okay, so we're left with 7.2 times 10 to the negative 6th. Okay? All right, guys, well, that's it for Algebra 2, Unit 2 review. If you have any questions, please come see Ms. Carranza or myself. Otherwise, this is Mr. Grice saying thanks for watching.